Hi, welcome to the Vergas Show. I'm Sherri. Thanks for joining me today. We're out in beautiful Vergas area. We're in God's country, and hopefully you've had a chance to come to Vergas. Vergas does not close up just because summer is over, and I hope everybody remembers that. And the businesses are open. They're open for your business, and they'd love to see you. And what better way to spend a beautiful day than driving the area? Hopefully you've gotten to see some of the leaves. And where we are today is we're out in Klondike country is what I've called it, or in Candor Township outside of Vergas. My family owns a little piece of property out here, and this is where we're at right now. But the thing that's interesting about where we're at today is not so much that it's Klondike country, not so much that it's Candor Township, but it's what I grew up knowing this area as, and that's Hairy Man country. All right, okay, I'm really going on the limb here because I know my credibility. Hopefully you've gotten to trust me over the few years I've been doing the Vergas Show, and hopefully you've been able to think that, okay, you know, what she's telling us is pretty factual, and I hope that when we're done with this, that stays the same, because what I am going to tell you about today really happened, okay? So, I did a little research on the Hairy Man of Burgas, and some of you that lived in Vergas area all your lives probably remember Kenny Zitzo, probably remember Dave Bruin, we called him Crane, and Zigzag. And of course they had the stories out there of coming through the Klondike country. And of course you have to remember, back in the 60s when they were probably back here was before any of this was developed. And we wanted, you know, to be able to get back into this beautiful country better, so of course they go in and they razz the road and they take down the sides, and it took away some of the mystery of the whole driving back here. But some of us remember what it was still like driving back before they did that in the 80s. And you had your high ledges, and people would drive through with their cars, and a few times there were sightings of nobody knows what it was. And these guys would come back into town and they would have a dent in their car, or they would know that somebody would jump off the side of the cliff, and they would, you know, jump on the front of the hood of their car, and they would obviously scare people. And so these stories started kind of circulating, and people just did not believe them, of course, because it just, sometimes it was at the time of night where they maybe had been at an establishment that caused them to think that they saw something. Who knows what it was. But I had an experience with the Hairy Man that I need to tell you about. First I want to tell you, don't worry about it. You know, the Hairy Man of Burgas, from my story and my rationale of it all, you know, is no longer out in this area. We are in, you can drive out here and not be afraid. I remember a day when I would drive out here, and our family would stay out here, and we would drive out here, and I would be so frightened going around the corner thinking that I was going to see the Hairy Man that I would barely make it out there. And then I'd get here and I would turn the car off and I would just race into the house, and I would just be scared. There's no Hairy Man anymore. He hasn't been sighted for years, and this is why I think it happened. My theory of it is there was an older gentleman who lived out in this area, back in this Klondike area, and he lived here all his life. This was his property. Well, he got older, and his family probably had to start selling off some of the property. And he, you know, as he got older then too, maybe started, you know, his mind started going a little bit, and he didn't realize that the property was being sold off, or else he was angry about it. And so he would come out and he would try to scare people away. Well, a girlfriend and I were out here one day, and right on this land here where we're at, and we were snowmobiling. We were taking our snowmobiles, and you know, you're just going around, and the building was here, and we were just going around and around it just like kids do. And all of a sudden, out of the building came this, well, of course we were young, and so it seemed like it was this 7-foot creature, and he had some kind of a hatchet or something in his hand. And when I think back on it, you know, he probably just had a full beard, he had the full hair, and he had the, you know, some kind of a fur coat on or whatever, but he started chasing us on our snowmobiles. And I mean, we not only were startled, but we didn't know what to do, because here we were out in this area and we were all by ourselves. And so thankfully, you know, there was enough snow, we got our way out of there. But to this day, I can still remember the fright that we had at that time. And now that I've gotten older, I can rationalize it and say, well, there's no hairy man, there's no creature that's going to chase us. It must have just been this man, and he must have just not wanted us on his property, and so he just chased us away. So, you know, there haven't been any sightings of any kind of unusual creature. There haven't been any sightings of anybody out in this, you know, this beautiful land that we're on right now that would cause anybody to be afraid. And so when you think of that, and you know, you're Halloween and you want to take a drive out here, and you don't need to be worried about it, because we have not seen anything for years and years and years, and it's just totally inhabited, you know, not inhabited by any kind of a creature or anything like that. It was interesting to me, though, that when I did go out and I did a little checking on it, there are stories from the Vergis Trails and over the internet, and it's Vergas, Minnesota Trails, and they're talking about back home there's a set of minimum maintenance trail roads called the Vergis Trails. And they wind all over the place. They're very narrow roads with many ruts and bumps and trees, and they come up right up to the edge of the gravel, and there's many different tales told about them. And there's a story of a man called the Hairy Man. Now this is right on the internet. I was able to find this just by putting in Vergas Hairy Man. It says he lives up in the woods near one of the trails and likes to be by himself, and he will come out and chase you and all those creepy things. A friend of mine was driving the trails, another student said, and he saw a large hairy being standing on its hind legs beside the road, and he slammed his fist in the back of my friend's truck. The dent just behind the cab of the truck was about the size of a basketball, and it would take an extreme amount of strength to make it. My friend insists that it was the Hairy Man of Burgas alongside the Vergis Trails as he drove past that night. The dent proves it, right? The story has to be true, is what all these people on the internet said. And plus there's, you know, other strange encounters back from the Vergis Trails. There was another one from Moorhead that a young man came out here, and he had heard the stories of the Hairy Man of Burgas. And he had actually heard them and wrote here that he tracked down a mechanic. Now, we all know who that mechanic probably was. I'm thinking of Kenny Zitzo, I'm sure you are too, who told him that when he was a teenager in 1968, he and his brother's girlfriend were driving minimum maintenance roads out in the Vergas area, and a creature leaped at them. When they turned around to get another look at him, he attacked their car. They found a large dent in the trunk, and they described the creature as being about 300 pounds and 7 or 8 feet tall. They said he had a face like a gorilla and an upright body like a man. Now, obviously we've not seen anything like that around here for years, and we probably won't ever see anything like that around here again. But I just felt that it was up to me to let you know that there have been sightings of the Hairy Man of Burgas. I have a rational story of who I think the Hairy Man of Burgas is. Other people obviously have ideas of who they think the Hairy Man of Burgas is. And this one guy here has even taken track prints and thinks that maybe like a Sasquatch or something like that, or a Bigfoot had come through this area at one time. So it's up to you. You make your decision on if you think that the Hairy Man of Burgas is still roaming around this beautiful area of Vergas, that's out in the Klondike country in Candor Township. That's my story. I'd love to hear your story. Have a good day in Vergas.